Alright, guys, here we go. What is this? What is this? Things no one likes anymore. Destiny and Game of Thrones. Better put them right on my shoulder. What do you think? Anyway, let's get our stretches on. Get going. Fucking late. Got shit to do. Good shit to do. I can tell I'm getting better because it was a long night, but I don't feel like I'm dying. There were some long nights where the next day was just a wash recently. It would just be like, well, there goes a whole day. He's going to have to sit around in a blanket, wearing t-shirt, underpants, nice comfy blanket, and just be like, fuck. Watch something dumb on Netflix. I think they're up to like season 20 of something dumb. It's nuts. Everybody watches that shit. Come on, give me my light back. There we go. Boy, so we did do an Eternal Darkness. It was good. There were like little things didn't anticipate. Well, I guess I didn't know. Like, didn't test the emulation first. It wasn't bad, but it had like one notable like screen transition. I don't know what it was. Perhaps it was like an all white screen that fades to black, or some kind of like effect that goes on. But when the emulator would do it, it would look like a big green mess, and then it would like a big green overlay, like a green screen, except in front of things, and then it would fade to normal again. So it was distracting. It was like, what's that? And then the game seemed to it just like compensated. Game run really well. There were a couple of like weird little chunks. It would just where you're like, I guess it's loading something. I don't know. Like maybe the hard drive falls asleep and it needs to wake it up and then read the data. Maybe it's just an emulation foible. I'd like to find some time to just go look at the forums and see if anybody's like, I played Eternal Darkness, it has these problems. And then someone's like, oh yeah, you just need to tick this box in the emulator or something. That'd be great. As is, it's perfectly functional for what we're doing, and we don't need to buy a couple $100 capture card to capture a the input of a GameCube. It looks nice. It looks better than a real GameCube because it can blow it up to a nice resolution running at 1080p. I mean, we could run it higher. There's no point. I capture 1080p, and we do a 1080p frame, and then we put the game in a window in that. So it's not like whatever the game's running at, it's not even getting captured at that. Well, it's outputting at 1080p, and we're capturing it, shrinking down a little bit to give it a border. Put our little branding crap on there. It is a game. It doesn't have a ton of UI when you're running around in the active gameplay parts. Like clearly it has UI elements in the menu of the game, but so we could probably get away with overlaying stuff, especially if we could make it like transparent or something. It'd be kind of neat that way. I really would like to get a transparent version of our logo working. I had something like that in one of the Final Fight LNS videos I did. I fiddled with that, and it looked fine, but it wasn't as transparent as I want. So you just gotta find the time. It's not impossible, but it's not impossible to find the time. It's clearly not impossible to find the time. But I'm interested when I'm like, I can't find the time. I'm like, really? Why? You know, what's so crazy that you can't find the time? Like, for instance, today I'm not going to find the time to start the new workout regimen, which just involves like some forearm, some supinated arm lifts. I could very easily do those here. The thing I can't do here would be these like crouching uppercut repetitions. I need to do them standing, period. So I might have to go back to the kitchen version of the background. Speaking of like background, you know, like you always hear people say like you need to put like a nice solid color or something behind you. Yeah, I probably should, but it's not impossible. I know, not impossible. I can do it. I have the things. I just have to get around to it. How about some Rick and Morty crap? There you go. Oh, but then I lean over enough, there's more Game of Thrones crap. No. And like a PS4 box. I think it's my original PS4 box, not even the Destiny Collector's Edition Pro box, which is somewhere in my garage. Yeah, I'm a box collector. There's a wall over here you can't see that's just like a ton of PS3, PS4, Xbox 360 games. Like, it's probably about time. It's got some DVDs on it. It's got like Star Wars uh, and the prequels and the original trilogy. Got Indiana Jones, got Back to the Future, like a bunch of stuff that's like, well, like, clearly you should have this. But with I find that with the advent of like streaming companies, that I don't go like, well, what's to watch? I just, whatever's on streaming, I watch. So I sit here with these collections of films that are like known good quantities. There's a Matrix trilogy up there too. I'm like, what? It's sealed. I look at it and I'm like, well, that's up there? There's a complete run of Briscoe County Jr. up there that I've never gotten around to rewatching since I saw it on television. You know, and I really like the show. It's got young Bruce Campbell. He's like more. I like Bruce Campbell, but I'm going to say something that makes it sound like I don't like him. I find young Bruce Campbell a lot more palatable. Perhaps it's just, looking at the past and being like, oh, those were fun times. He reminds me of old days. But when I see him now, it's not even like I look at him and I go, oh, he's old. I don't like him. It's just his personality hasn't changed. He hasn't added much to it. There's something kind of admirable to that, but there's also something that's a little like, oh man, like you're still the same. That's crazy. I'm a little different. Maybe you would be a little different. Just that like a little bit of wisdom or something with the ages. Like if he would be perfect if he could hit that like Sean Connery, like, well, yeah, I used to be a crazy fuck, but now I'm just an older, wiser crazy fuck. You know, you're like, oh, that guy's still in there, but he's a little different. Maybe Sean Connery's a bad person to name, right? Because people got all worked up that he like slapped some lady in an interview or something. That's never admirable just from the violence part. Like if the discussion starts being like a man slapped a woman, then I'm like, it doesn't matter, man or woman slaps a man or woman in an interview. What are you doing? You're supposed to be here to be interviewed. Maybe I don't know what that lady was doing, but I don't think she's doing anything that was worth being slapped, i.e., like attacking him, and he needs to defend himself. That didn't happen. What else is up here? A Nancy Drew game, G.I. Joe and Transformers G1, fucking Deke, not the Deke cartoons, the ones before those, Sunbow, I believe, whatever, the good ones that like as I get older and older, it's not like they're bad, but it's not like I hate them, but you just start to really notice the bad, where you're like, oh man, and my opinion like flip flops. I remember watching them when I was about 30. And I was like, wow, these G.I. Joes really hold up, but the Transformers are like a mess. And then now I'm watching the G.I. Joes, and I'm like, wow, the G.I. Joes are maybe still a little better than I thought the Transformers were. But the Transformers now have like this great camp feel to them that I like strongly appreciate over the G.I. Joes. The problem with the G.I. Joes is almost every goddamn episode you pull out has Shipwreck in him, and he's fine, but it's like, you just want to see some other characters sometimes. You get a lot more coherent, long-term story with the G.I. Joe stuff because they'll do 4 or 5 part episodes, like with some regularity, like basically movies. So you get something a little more meaty, than they're like, oh, well, in this episode, there's like a haunted castle. In this episode, I'll say the episodes I remember are the ones that are like good. I was going to say like, there's an episode here where these ghosts are attacking G.I. Joe. And you're like, well, actually, that's kind of cool. This is a ghost of a guy in like a biplane that's like strafing him with ghost bullets that like burn them with like screaming soul fire. And you're like, this is kind of fucking crazy. This is rad. But it is just like a one-time thing. Like, here's this thing. Here's the time they were haunted by like a biplane, and then it's gone. they do a couple of like one-off stories about like Scarlet and Destro being related through like some Cthulhu cult. And you're like, whoa, that's wild. Like they look in like a weird like well, and there's just an eyeball with tentacles, and you're like, well, this is some HR Geiger shit. You know what I mean. Boy, I mean the racist shit. Come on, give me my light back. There we go. But yes, yep, that brings us all the way back to Eternal Darkness, which went well. I'll look in, see if I can get some time to look in before we record again on Saturday, and see if we can clean up those like emulation foibles, or if there's anything I could do to the border to like clean it up a little bit, or make it like transparent, make it fit better. Gotta watch the video back and make sure it looks good and stuff. It seemed like it looked good to me. So I don't think there's anything going on there that's out of control. But we're basically done here, guys. Still want to put up a Final Fight LNS. Like, really getting into the depths of that thing. I don't know. I'll probably do a run through of like Musuo mode. It's a very like intense mode because you're fighting such big crowds of enemies nonstop. But fighting crowds of enemies is like, it's just doable. It's not some impossible thing. And otherwise it plays like normal. It's weird that it's all the way like the progression's like easy, normal, hard, very hard. Musuo is like kind of its own mode. You still get like food pickups, and you still get like a lot of 1-ups and stuff. The problem with that game is it goes from easy to normal. Easy is like 10 continues, 2 lives, like total of 3, 2 spare lives, 3 lives. 1-ups in the world, 1-ups that you can punch until you get enough score to get a 1-up. It goes from easy to normal, where it's like you get 2 lives, no continues, 10 continues, no 1-up items in the world, 2 1-ups that you can ever earn through points. You're like, what? Whoa, like cliff or chunk. And then like very hard is just like, oh yeah, it's like extra harder because you don't get any healing items. And you're like, okay, crikey. And then the very hard like kind of almost goes is like better. Very hard is like you take double damage, but there are healing items. So as long as you don't boner it up so bad that you die, you might be able to like recover and get back on the road. That I feel like I might someday be able to beat very hard, but not hard. I think it's literally called like poop mode or something, because all the food turns into poop. Not only that, do you not get the food, but if you're, it's punch is the same button as pick up food. So if you happen to be punching near a poop, you pick up the poop, poop hurts you. So not only do you not get healed, you have to like look out for mankind's landmines of poop. They're gonna fuck you up. No, remember that, kids. Look out for landmines of poop. They're gonna fuck you up.